Welcome back, everybody. Today, we are going to do a tier list on all of the meta, try to get you ready for ranked. I don't really expect too much to change. I think most of the innovation happens within the first couple weeks of the set. I think we're now at the point where the meta is going to be solidified. There might be some new rogue decks that pop up, but for the most part, everything's going to depend on what does the meta look like at the time. That's when you want to play certain decks over the others. So I have kind of more of a simple tier list than normal because I really think as I play Pocket and I go on, Pocket's a simple game. I feel like our tier list should be simple. We don't need, 7 tiers to differentiate everything. I think the way Pocket kind of works is there are the best decks in the game. They're the most consistent. They take the best matchups. They have the highest power level. There are the decks that are slightly underneath that, maybe have just one weakness. And then there are the rogue decks, which are just like counters to certain decks in the meta that pop up and do really well. If, say, Hydreigon is taking over, then X deck is going to do really, really well. Then I have the please do not play tier because I don't think they classify as really any of these. They're not particularly strong. They don't do anything better than any of the S or A tier decks. So I would please stay away from them. I forgot to promote myself. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. If this is your first video, no pressure. But if you've ever eaten a meal to a Tilly video, I require a subscription, dude. That's intimate. So check the button. So because of my simplified tier list, I don't think it's even right to call a deck like... I don't think there's one best deck in the game, is what I'm trying to get at. We're going to talk about Hydreigon first, just get it out of the way. It's everyone's least favorite deck to play against. I think it's an S tier deck. Why do I think it's an S tier deck? I think it has the high roll potential. It didn't gain any new bad matchups from this set. If anything, it gained some better ones. If people are on Mega Altaria Darkrai, Igglybuff, that variant, instead of Altaria Greninja, the stuff that usually gave it problems, then that's very good for it. You can see at times depending on what the meta share is for the tournament, Hydreigon will do really, really well if Altaria players are not playing Chingling in their deck. This is going to be a deck you see everywhere for ranked. It should be one of your top picks if you're just focused on grinding, gaining as many points, not really caring how much fun you actually have. I mean, it is fun to go first, rare candy Hydreigon on your second turn. That is a good time. I don't particularly love doing it because it's just mirror matches all over the place. I'm not the biggest fan of this deck. I think it is way too simple to play. Lucky Ice Pop made it even more annoying than ever. Took away a lot of cool lines for decks to deal with it by them removing the Indeedee from the deck. So I'm not a fan of Mega Hydreigon. You guys know that. Or not Mega Hydreigon. Hydreigon might as well be a Mega. This is basically a Mega. Not the biggest fan of the deck, but I cannot deny that it is one of the strongest in the game. Steelix, I think, has a very, very intimate relationship with Hydreigon because this is a deck that is really good if there's not a lot of Hydreigon around. These stall decks have extremely polarizing matchups. Just because there's not a whole lot of... There's not really plays you can make with the deck. It's sort of just a one trick, like I have a big Pokemon. If you don't have a way to deal with it based on how your deck is built, I'm gonna win. So this deck does very well against like Suicune. Limit their damage, take minus 40 every turn because of the either Heavy Helmet or Steel Apron. It'd be minus 30. Steel Apron's not a bad pick because there's so much sleep stuff going around. Makes it so Steelix can't be affected by any special conditions. It can do well into Altaria. It can do bad. It's not like the greatest matchup on paper. It just depends on how fast they get the Altaria online and are swinging for 130. But if you do get the Steelix set up, you can tank enough damage from the Altaria that the Steelix is going to run through them. But its good matchups are Suicune and Mega Scizor, which we won't see too much around, and Zeraora. Because all the other matchups are so bad, I can't put this anything else but Rogue. It gets destroyed by Absol. It gets destroyed, or not destroyed, but it takes 40% matchups to any of the Altaria decks. Like, if they just get set up, they're good. So I wouldn't call this deck A tier or S tier. I do see it. It's doing very, very well in tournament. It's kind of like, this will sit in Rogue, but it's the top of Rogue. I think this is the best Rogue deck out there that could be A tier, but because, again, the matchups are so polarizing, I can't put this in just A. Like, that's reserved for decks that take maybe one bad matchup to one of the top decks and not a few of them. Oh, also just loses very hard to Charizard stuff. If Charizard's down, which Charizard has been down in play, then Steelix is going to get better. But For ranked, also for ranked, just as a deck, I don't want to spend too much time on Steelix, but for ranked as a deck, you're going to see a lot of Hydreigon, and games are going to take forever. So your ranked grind is really not going to go well. Imagine you spend 10 minutes beating a Suicune deck because you have to Indeedee, Lucky Ice Pop, do all that, and then you queue into a Hydreigon, they go turn 2, Rare Candy Hydreigon, and then they just demolish you, and then you're net like 15 minutes in, you've played 2 games, and you're at the exact same spot that you were. Mega Steelix is not going to be a great pick for ranked because of that, in my opinion. Now, the Mega Charizard deck got a nice buff with Mega Charizard X. It was doing really well at the start of the format. I don't think I'd ever call it S tier. I think it's an A tier deck. It has some new tricks, a couple more lines it can accomplish with that Mega Charizard X inclusion. It doesn't take horrible matchups, but against some of the top meta decks, it definitely struggles. Like Suicune is not a good time for it. Suicune was never a good time for this deck. Chien-pao can just snipe. They can attack way faster than they ever have because of Max Caliber. Even if they go first, they can start swinging with Suicune. That's not great for you. There's a lot of things that are not fantastic for you against that matchup. Does fine against Hydreigon. Takes some really good matchups like Mega Steelix. It's going to body basically every single time. It's really hard to lose that one. Mega Scizor as well. They don't have really good attackers. You know, they kind of, the only thing that can deal with the Entei is the Mega Scizor. And if Mega Scizor hits the active spot, Charizard's probably going to be waiting ready to explode it. I like the deck. I've always liked Mega Charizard. In my experience, as I've played it, I gotta preface all of this by saying, obviously, I have not played any sort of competitive games with these decks. There's no ranked. I'm not entering in tournaments. This is all just taking my past experiences from the last sets and translating them over. Mega Charizard X, when I played it day one, it wasn't really coming up all that often. To be completely honest, I can see where I would want it. If there's ever a time where I can't get 4 energy on a Mega Charizard Y, Mega Charizard X would definitely come in clutch. But I feel like that hasn't happened all that much. But it's a better card than the baby Charizard that does like 150 and damages itself or something. It's a much better inclusion than that. That card was always terrible. The only reason I ever left it in the deck was because it was another May target, and that was impactful. And just like, what else would it be? Might as well be something that isn't Mega Charizard Y, because one of them, you can usually find it. Between the Enteis and the Mays, you're good on finding that one copy. So I'll leave it in A tier. Definitely not an S tier deck. Has too many bad matchups, but it does have raw strength, and it can beat a lot of decks that are rogue as well. Any rogue mega deck, it will probably have a good time into. Its only weaknesses are, can my opponent damage my bench Pokemon before they're in the active spot with Greninjas or chien-paos? If they can, Charizard's not going to have a great time, but if they don't, Charizard can usually do pretty good against it. Mega Venusaur. All right, someone actually won a tournament with this deck. And I think this deck is, in every single way, worse than Steelix. I really do. It's going to have a good time into Suicune. Maybe, probably, because they just once the Venusaur's online, the Suicune doesn't really have anything it can do against it. But this is another deck that just takes insanely polarizing matchups, but loses even harder to like Hydreigon and Altaria. They could just so easily get the knockout on Ivysaur and you lose the game. If Ivysaur had a way to have 140 HP, this deck would be maybe the most broken thing in the game. No joke. But because Ivysaur is capped at 120 between its HP and the heavy helmet reduction, it's just not enough. It's not enough to survive. I don't care for this deck at all. I think you should just play. If you're gonna play a stall, heal everything deck, the Steelix is better. Probably going to lose to Oricorio. I mean, you do have a lot of heal. It's just going to be an annoying game against Oricorio, to be honest. I would not. I would never want to be in that situation in ranked. But I'm not rocking with the Mega Venusaur. I don't know why you'd pick it over Steelix. It's such a matchup heavy deck. Like, if you're queuing into, if you can predict the future and know that you're going to queue into 5 Suicunes in a row, pick Venusaur. Otherwise, like, delete your deck. Mega Scizor, I'm going to put in Rogue. It doesn't even really classify as a Rogue deck to me in the same way that some of the other ones do, because it's not specifically countering anything. This deck isn't taking an amazing matchup to a couple of the meta decks. Mega Scizor is taking some unfavored matchups and is taking some slightly favored matchups. It has like an okay matchup spread. Like, nothing is really too abysmal. It doesn't have a good time into Mega Steelix. It doesn't have a good time into Mega Charizard, but those are the less common decks out of like what are probably going to be, you know, the S tier, the decks that you see all the time. It takes like 50% matchups or 40 to 45% matchups against them. Its power level just is not at the same limit as the other decks that are going to occupy S or A tier. And again, it's like, because it doesn't have any really good matchups, I almost don't see a point in why you would play it in ranked besides you really like the deck. Because while it is cool, there are other mega decks that can kind of do what Scizor does better. Scizor is going to either most likely two-shot most things. It can one-shot some EXs and some mega Pokemon when you get the damage modifier involved. But like, take a deck like Altaria Greninja. That can work up to a one-shot on a Mega through Greninja pings and adding the damage that way. And you have much better plays with the Greninja and Cyrus than Mega Scizor does, having to put it in the active spot to really do much of anything. So I'll leave it in Rogue. It just does not have the same power level or matchup advantage for me to put it any higher. I don't want to keep you guys in suspense, and I'm not going to throw deck lists up for these because we're just going to hammer through them very quickly. Let's just get the please do not plays out of the way. Houndstone, Gourgeist, it doesn't have enough. There's not enough discard for this deck to really work, and it can just get knocked out by most anything when the Houndstone's up in the active spot. There's honestly, if there was a way to accelerate like one psychic energy in play, it could work, I think. But because you just don't have enough energy to like attack with a Gourgeist and then attack with two Houndstones like you would like to. Mega Slowbro, it's also just a joke. It's not a real deck by any means. I would not consider this for ranked at all. As much as I like the deck, it would be cool to put it into Rogue, but and yeah, it'll pop up and it'll do fine at tournaments because you can just go nuclear with the Meowth, keeping your opponent from taking any points and letting you build up more supporters in the discard with Chandelure. But Chandelure I'm also going to throw into the please do not play. And then the last one I have is this Leafeon Ogerpon deck. It just, again, you might see it do well at a tournament, but I don't think that really says much when there are so many tournaments happening. One making like top 8 or top 16 doesn't really mean a lot for the meta. What matters is, how is this deck consistently going to do into the top decks? And Leafeon just does not have the power level at all. Like, max you're hitting for 130 with this thing if everything goes your way and you're able to set up the Teal Mask Ogerpon, but all of your Pokemon can get knocked out fairly easily by any of the top decks. I don't really see any validity in playing it. This is a deck I was a big fan of a few formats ago. No longer my top pick. It stopped working for me at some point, but I think it is still A tier. I'm looking at the matchup spread for it, and it is like almost everything is positive besides Altaria Greninja. This deck is very, very strong. I mean, Chingling, people are not respecting Chingling at the moment. It feels pretty bad. Chingling probably doesn't win like the Igglybuff versus, Igglybuff versus Chingling. If you're in a head-on matchup, it's probably not going to win that fight. Chingling's going to get knocked out very, very easily. Going to be a free point for your opponent. But it's still proving itself at tournaments. It still seems to be doing fine into the meta. I know a lot of the players that are still on it are very good, though, which could be inflating the win percentages, right? Like, I feel like anyone playing Darkrai Absol still are ride or die Darkrai Absol players. Like, I don't remember who it was, but because their name isn't really anything. It's just a bunch of random letters. But that guy played it in ranked and became rank 1 or like held rank 1 for a really long time just playing this deck. So it can work if you're the right guy for it. But for me, I'm no longer the right guy for it. I started Darkrai too many times for me to love this deck, because if you start Darkrai going first, the game's almost cooked for you immediately. Doesn't happen all the time, but it can. Yeah, the deck is fine. I like Altaria Greninja more than this deck because I like being able to hit for 130 in one turn. You're capped at 100 damage max, 120 with a Greninja. Like Mega Absol plus a Darkrai Ping plus a Greninja will get you up to 120. Mega Altaria, you can do 150 in one turn. So I like that variant a bit more than this one. Let's get him out of the way. Suicune, chien-pao, Baxcalibur. I think he's S tier. if you look at any tournament, this guy is usually has the most amount of like top standings out of any deck. And this is like the great filter. This deck is going to prevent so many rogue decks from existing. Like if you're ever queuing on ranked and you see some deck that you just normally don't, this deck probably has an answer to it. Because it's just so much more consistent than anything else. The chien-pao snipe for 130. Suicune can now attack even if you go first, if you get the Baxcalibur online on your second turn. It's so aggressive, it's so consistent. I don't know how this deck could be anything but S tier. Like, its power level is just insane. It doesn't take too many bad matchups. Mega Steelix, like I outlined earlier, is not going to be great, but you're not going to run into that every single time. Mega Altaria Greninja is not fantastic for you either. But there are definitely ways. Like if you get all your giant capes and your starting planes in play, it becomes very hard for a Mega Altaria to really deal with you. The hardest part is the Chingling lock for sure, and now not having Greninja. Greninja was a big component of it, being able to bring the Altaria into the active spot first. But if they're Chingling locking you, stopping you from getting into Baxcalibur, and then taking a point on the Suicune EX, they probably have a pretty good follow-up. Like, they can most likely knock out a chien-pao after the fact, or Cyrus a Baxcalibur up, and that is kind of how you lose that matchup. But yeah, against most of the meta, this deck is fantastic. I don't really, it's not gonna be my pick. I'm kind of tired of the Water Dog, even though he has a bunch of new friends. To me, the issue has always been the Water Dog. I don't like his play style. But yeah, definitely S tier. I mean, hard to argue against it. Mega Altaria Greninja. The deck's not going anywhere. Its matchup spread is insane. The only bad matchup it picked up was the Igglybuff variant, because they are able to knock out your Chinglings and put you on a really, really fast timer. When your Chinglings are getting knocked out immediately, dude, you can even lose the game if you start Chingling and they start Igglybuff and get a Darkrai going first. They can just, you can lose the game on the spot if you have no other bench Pokemon. Even if you do, that's still really hard to come back from. And then like Mega Charizard Y can give it some problems if they, correctly use Entei. Like if they're able to just go Entei, take some early points, and then set up the Mega Charizard Y, you're gonna get bodied by that deck. They're really, really aggressive, and they can take those early points against you. It's hard to set up like Rare Candy Greninja and Altaria in the amount of time that deck gives you. But everything else is like, everything else is pretty much 60% or higher. This deck, nothing really changed. Besides Igglybuff giving it some problems, nothing changed too much. I'm sure it doesn't do great against Magnezone decks. It never did. Those are going to give it a big problem still. Magnezone Oricorio has to be a horrible matchup. It's not here on my matchup data, but from how much I played this deck, I know this deck does not do well into Magnezone Oricorio at all. So add that to the list. This deck does not like to see Oricorio whatsoever. But other than that, against most of the things you're going to see in the meta, it's going to do very, very well again. So this one is still probably going to be a staple for me in order to gain a bunch of points. We're going to kind of rapid fire this section because it's the lightning deck section. The first one I have is Magnezone Bellibolt. I'm going to group it in the same category as Magnezone Oricorio. All strong for the same reasons, practically. Or the ones with Oricorio, you get the buff of Oricorio. I mean, even the Magnezone Bellibolt, though, plays the Oricorio. This just goes harder on trying to keep the Oricorios alive. It's Magnezone and then a big lightning attacker, right? There's also even like Magnezone Manectric. Like, these are all the same to me. I prefer, if I'm playing Magnezone with someone, I prefer it with Bellibolt. If I'm not playing it with someone but Oricorio, put the Teal Mask Ogerpon in the deck. So I won't even bother ranking this. I would just play the Bellibolt version. If I'm playing Mega Manectric, I would play the Zeraora version like you see right here. They are, even though they're both lightning type, they do have very key differences. Manectric tries to win the game by taking points early on and getting the Manectric up to doing 110 or 140, and it can just kind of two-shot a Mega. Has a lot of very early aggression. This tries to set up a bunch of really tanky attackers that are annoying to deal with. The Magnezones and the Bellibolt and the Oricorio can kind of wall while you're doing that. Gonna take some free wins against things that are not adequately prepared for double Oricorio and Pokemon Center Ladies. This one only plays the one copy of Oricorio, which I like. You want to get the Zeraoras down as soon as possible and the Manectrics in play as soon as possible. So having double Oricorio, Zeraora, and Electrike, it would just be too much. I like one Oricorio. It does the job in the deck. The Manectric Zeraora is one of my favorite decks to play in ranked, or not in ranked, in general, will be in ranked. I definitely will be queuing up with this for sure. I just really like the play style of it. I think there's a lot of cool things you can do with the deck. Energy, just from your energy preservation to knowing when it's time to attack with Manectric, when to wall with Oricorio. It's a really fun deck. I like the play style of it a lot. But all of these lightning type decks, I want to put them S tier. I think they all belong in the A tier. Yet another S tier Altaria variant. Igglybuff and Darkrai. This is so annoying for a couple reasons. You can now attempt to win games. So sleep was always a factor in Altaria, but now like a really fine way to attempt to win a game is Igglybuff early, go into Mega Altaria, swing into whatever you're trying to hit, even if you don't one-shot it, and then retreat into Igglybuff after, put them to sleep, or go one Igglybuff and then two, and then the second Igglybuff on their attacker, and it's like if they stay asleep, you just win the game. There are a lot of times where games will come down to you have 2 points, or you're about to knock out the Altaria, and your opponent puts it on the coin flip of Igglybuff. This is why we see Pokemon Center Lady in so many decks, because of this deck specifically. You can lose games from the Igglybuff, or even Swablu Sing, Darkrai damage gets you up to the amount that you need, and then Altaria comes in and finishes the job, winning then the game. Does good into the Chingling things, and it's still just, I think this deck has kind of put this Altaria version I'll throw in Rogue. I haven't even seen a deck list for it. I haven't seen anyone really do well at a tournament with this deck. It's still strong fundamentally, but it loses hard to like this variant, and it has never really done all that well into the Greninja one, so it's now just the worst Altaria variant. And this Gourgeist one too. This Gourgeist one is probably more like A tier, but this one's definitely the worst. The Gourgeist I've seen here and there. I would much rather play either of these two Altaria variants over the Gourgeist one, to be honest. But I think it is still strong enough to be considered A tier. Yeah, this is just, you're going to run into this all the time in ranked. Make sure you're playing Pokemon Center Ladies in the decks that it's, you know, relevant for. I mean, even Suicune chien-pao plays a Pokemon Center Lady instead of an Irida now. That's how important it is to get around the Igglybuff Sleep Lock, and you can cheese win. So both of these decks have the cheese win ability of Igglybuff knocks out something early, or this deck just prevents your opponent from ever setting up because of Chingling. Like, even if you go Igglybuff double Darkrai down and they stay asleep, you do 90 damage for 0 energy. It's so ridiculous, the high roll that is possible with this specific Altaria variant. It is just such a threat. Yeah, you're going to see it all the time in rank, so be prepared for it. Darkrai Giratina, not only is it a very hard deck to play, it doesn't have all that amazing matchups. Does good into Suicune Excalibur, apparently does good into Mega Steelix. I would assume that's because you can look to like just knock out an Indeedee early, or you're just doing so much damage with the Giratina onto the Mega Steelix that they just probably can't out heal it. But this deck, other than that, other than those two decks, it loses pretty hard to like everything else. It doesn't seem really well suited in the meta. I see it at some tournaments sometimes, but I think it's like Rogue Max, man. There's no way this is an A tier deck. There was a time, I don't even know if it was last format or 2 formats ago, where it seemed like maybe Darkrai Giratina could come back because of the inclusion of these new stadium cards. But it just really hasn't been enough to catapult it back into A or S tier, where it used to belong. So it's a fine Rogue deck if you really love this deck, or if it's one of the only things you can build because you're just picking the game back up. But yeah, you're not going to do great into the ranked meta as a whole. I know my photo has Heatmore and Blaziken here, but this is the more popular variant. This is the Blaziken that you will often see in tournaments. Not a lot of people playing it without the 1/1 Greninja line. This is Rogue for sure. This is too inconsistent for me to put into A tier. It is a weird one, right? This is a very, very strange deck looking at it. I hate everything about this. I hate Mega Blaziken. I hate throwing in a 1/1 Greninja, or sorry, a 1/2 Greninja line. I don't like this guy. I don't really want to talk about him anymore. He's rogue. If I see you on ladder, I hope it's not even a close game. I hope I wipe the floor with you so hard that you delete the deck afterwards. I've never believed in Blaziken, and luckily we've never entered a meta where he's actually been all that decent, because he is just at his core a high roll guy. He's a high roll guy and nothing more, and that's all he ever will be. This is my favorite deck from a fun standpoint. Decidueye Greninja. I did a video yesterday, so if you want to see how this deck functions, I talk more in depth about it, you can watch it there. Ultimately, what you need to know, Decidueye plus Greninja, you try to set up checkmate against your opponent's Mega, or try to score some easy points with the Greninja, and then Decidueye knocks out like a 2-point Pokemon. Gumi slows them down with its ability, making their attack cost 1 more. It is, as you can imagine, taking a look at the list, kind of inconsistent. There are games where you can go really turbo and you can get Greninja, Decidueye online. There are games where your hand will get absolutely stuck. The hiking trail is not helping you out because you have 3 cards bricked in your hand. And when that happens, the deck falls apart. It also doesn't feel like it does very well into anything with Chingling. If you start Gumi against Chingling, then maybe you'll have a chance. But those decks usually play Greninjas or something. Yeah, usually Greninjas that will allow them to access the Decidueye before you want them to. So maybe Protective Poncho has to enter this deck, given that Greninja is really making a resurgence in the meta for it to really be all that great. But this deck does not feel good against anything that can snipe the bench or item lock you. Those are its biggest weaknesses: inconsistency and sniping decks. They will bully the Decidueye, and you will not get the chance to win the game with him. Really fun, though. This guy just won a smaller tournament. Overall, it's kind of the only thing it's done. It pops up here and there, but I don't think the power level of this deck is quite there. I don't think it ever really was. When Mega Kangaskhan first came out, it was pretty decent, but I feel like it just fell off more and more as time went on. I don't really have much more to say about it other than it's like it's almost A tier, kind of how I felt about Mega Scizor, where it is strong. This will take some better matchups though, just because it's Oricorio and Greninja, and you can what is it? You can steal free wins off of that. Just decks aren't equipped to deal with it. But a decent amount of decks now have answers to Oricorio. They'll do fine against this deck. So it is what it is. I think it's just rogue. It's just the power level is not quite there for it. So this is it for the tier list. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what deck you're having the most fun with so far. Again, for me, it's that Decidueye Greninja variant mixed with Manec Variants. Those are the 2 decks I'm really gravitating towards for ranked when it inevitably drops. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video. I'll see you on the next one.